Everyone. Today we have a very special guest. I have the pleasure of introducing Sam Ventola. He is the branch manager of Mortgage Unlimited. Sam, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to everything that you have to share with us today.
George, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sam. Sam, I get a lot of questions of clients and first-time home buyers. They want to know, or they're a little scared of purchasing a house because of the whole COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. And I wanted to get the information directly from someone who's working in the industry. But before that, can you just give us a little introduction of yourself, Sam? So if anyone who's viewing doesn't know you, can get to know you a little better.
Sure. My name is Sam Ventola. I work for Mortgage Unlimited. I've been in the mortgage business now close to it's over 25 years now, and been handling Bayonne for 25 years. That's one of my stops, Jersey City, Bayonne. I cover a few other areas, but pretty much covering the whole state.
Wow. Okay. So for 20 years?
25, George. I'm getting old, George.
Wow.
I was young and handsome 25 years ago. Now I'm a beaten down old man, but it's a long time.
That's awesome, Sam. And why did you decide to join the industry in the first place?
Great question. I had no clue. I was actually at a birthday party for my niece, and one of my brother's dear friends owned a mortgage company and asked me, do you want to come in and talk? So I went in working there with no idea. I didn't know what a mortgage was, to be honest with you. Didn't know what points were, didn't know what an interest rate was. So I was as green as you can possibly be. And I took the shot, and 25 years later, I'm still doing it.
That's amazing. And before that, Sam, what were you doing then?
When I got out of college, I actually worked down Port Newark and Elizabeth. I used to work for a stevedore company, Mar Terminals. And we would supervise the longshoremen as goods came in and out of the East Coast. That's pretty much what we did there.
Awesome.
So I went from one extreme to a totally opposite extreme.
Right. And now you mentioned you work specifically in New Jersey and Jersey City, Bayonne in general.
I cover, George, as they tell me, and this has had kind of changed now with the whole coronavirus, I'm a dinosaur. I'm still typically a street originator. On Monday, I'll be in Union County. I will be in Clark, in Rahway, in Linden. And Tuesdays, Wednesdays, I will be in Hudson County. I'll be in Jersey City and Bayonne. Thursdays, I make my way back to parts of Union County, Scotch Plains, and Plainfield. And then Friday, I pretty much hit wherever I missed. I pretty much cover, go out and hit those areas.
That's awesome. Even now, are you still going to?
No, now, George, for the last 5 weeks, and this is how it's, especially for someone like me who's done stuff for so long, I've been working from my dining room table.
Got it. Okay. That's awesome, Sam. So like I was mentioning to you before, a lot of first-time home buyers or people in general, I'm not sure how the mortgage industry is working during the whole coronavirus pandemic. And I wanted to get the information directly from someone in the industry, someone who is experienced. So Sam, in your point of view, has the mortgage industry been affected by the coronavirus?
Immensely. Are we still doing mortgages? Absolutely. But things have tightened up in a lot of aspects. Many of the FHA products, certain direct lenders have tightened their credit scores. We still have brokers out there who will do credit from 620, but a lot of the investors have tightened up their credit scores. Some of the niche products, what we call non-conforming loans, where people are doing like bank statement loans only and stuff, things like that, they have kind of fell by the wayside. It has tightened up as far as high balance and jumbo mortgages. So they really have tightened their guidelines up regarding, who can get a mortgage, because we're in uncharted territory. Nobody has seen anything like this. And I guess, the servicers are very nervous because they're not sure, if they buy a loan, whether in 3 or 4 months, if people are going to be able to pay it. I think the total was now between 7 to 10% of all mortgages nationwide are in some sort of deferment plan.
Got it. That's an important statistic to know. So so it seems like you mentioned the mortgage industry, it's still going, but it's
Oh, it's
changing
absolutely still
also.
going. It's, and you know what? What's nice is, and I was thinking about this the other day. If this had happened 10 or 15 years ago without the internet and without Zoom, when we did everything with paper, it would have been, I couldn't even imagine we would have to close doors. Now with, the internet and with Zoom and with be able to doing, like, all my processors and underwriters can work remotely. So it hasn't been, believe it or not, too bad of a hiccup, because everything now is done through the internet and downloading documents. So and even with the attorney's offices and title offices, I mean, things are getting done. But if this would have happened 10, 15 years ago, the effects would have been really bad.
Right. And do you think that the mortgage industry in general was prepared for something like this? And if they were, do you feel that the adaptations that you're implementing now will continue on after the coronavirus? Like you were mentioning, everything is done more remotely and more e-signing instead of paper, instead of paper trails and signing everything in person. Do you think that the policies that you're using now, are they going to continue even after the coronavirus has dissipated?
That's a good question, George. I think actually the whole society, how corporate world does business, is going to change. I think the mortgage business, actually, you're never prepared for something like this, but they were actually, many of our underwriters already worked remotely. Most of our docs are, you have to e-sign and things where, there are loan officers that I know who never even see a client, never even face to face. So for a lot of people, this has not been nothing new, other than the fact that it has slowed down the home buying process. The actual mortgage process, I don't feel has been affected that greatly yet. And I
Okay.
don't think it will be, because, like I said, a lot of the stuff we were doing prior to this was all done through the internet and e-signing. And we've had processors and underwriters who have the ability to work from home. So, one of my, processors is located in the Midwest. So it's not really a difficult situation as far as that.
Understood. So I know in the real estate industry, the way we conduct the business, we've had to adapt. Instead of doing open houses, obviously we have to keep in mind the social distancing, and we're doing more virtual showings. And when we show properties, we have to, or at least I make sure to wear my mask, gloves, shoe covers, and I'll let the client go into a building or property privately, and then if they're interested, we'll discuss over the phone. I'm curious to find out. Uh, are there any procedures that you've had to kind of change and adapt to with the coronavirus pandemic, or like you were mentioning, everything's pretty much the same? The only thing is more e-signing, from what I
Well,
understand.
for me, George, it has been a big change, because, as you know, and I'm that guy who, every Tuesday or Wednesday I'm in Bayonne, and I make my stops to every real estate office in Bayonne. That's what I do. I've been doing it for such a long time. I consider myself a people person. I enjoy the people, the real estate offices. I enjoy the people. I go in and see them. For me, for the last 5 weeks, it's been pretty tough. I mean, to sit here and not be able to go out on the road and to see people and say hello. What I'm trying to do is, with clients, and I was always one would like to sit with clients. I would, I always believed, like to be face to face. What I'm doing with clients now is either through a phone conference or Zoom. We sit and we go over the application and we do it that way. With my real estate agents, who I miss a lot. I mean, many of my agents I consider, more than just referral people. They're friends of mine now after 25 years. So, I truly miss them. So what I try to do is at least once a week, like I would hit an office, send texts out to my agents, just seeing, that they're safe and everything is well and how everything is going. I miss that personal connection. So for someone like myself, it's a little bit harder for me to adapt, but you do it. I mean, so for certain mortgage reps, there hasn't been no adapt. They don't have to adapt. They've been doing this, sitting at home and doing applications through the internet and stuff like that. For me, it's been a big change because I'm usually on the road at least 4 days a week, visiting realtors, sitting with my clients, saying hello to people. So it's a lot tougher sitting in the dining room doing those things when you're so used to doing stuff for 25 years. You have to now adapt.
Got it. Okay. And then you mentioned now most of the communication that you have with clients is over the phone and Zoom calls, and everything is remotely. Now you don't need them personally to sign documents. You can do e-signing and e-doc and all that.
Yeah, we've had that ability for a while now. Being old school, I always would like to sit with the borrowers and go over the application and sit with them for 45 minutes to an hour to explain and go over things. And then, then we would send things out remotely. It's changed a little bit now. So I now, when we go over the application, we're either doing a Zoom conference or a conference via the iPhone or, because I still think it's a people business at the end of the day. I really strongly believe that. And for me, I like to sit and speak with my clients, let them feel that I'm just, there's a face behind a name, and know that if there's any problems or questions or things I can help them with, I'm there to help them.
Got it. That's awesome. So, and I know you mentioned before, as far as the process is concerned, you're saying that it hasn't changed too much. Like I would assume because everything, well, actually not. Maybe it's a little easier, or like you mentioned, everything's pretty much the same as far as the process of opening and closing a loan. What I understand is everything is pretty much the same as far as
that's the same, George, because other than where the processors and maybe the underwriters were in our centralized office and closing department, now everybody's doing it remotely, but they're doing the same thing. So right now, knock on wood, there hasn't been too many hiccups as far as computers breaking down or things of that nature, but everything that they would do in the office, they are able to do remotely.
That's awesome. So typically, let's say on average, Sam, if a client's interested in working with you and getting a loan, what would you say is the turnaround time for opening the file and closing and having someone move into the new home?
George, I would like to say our average, I believe, from start to finish right now has still been around 30 to 32 days. It's still running really smooth. I like to tell everyone that, I would comfortably say, if you could, 45 days, only because we're in such uncharted territory. Nobody knows that if something like, if a computer breaks down in the processors, or something changes or, something that's unforeseen, you want to give a little lead time for the mortgage and the attorney and the title company, just God forbid something does change. But right now we are pretty much running true to form. I think we were closing stuff within 28 to 30 days prior to the pandemic, and it's pretty much been the same so far.
That's impressive. That's awesome to know, Sam. So I'm curious to know, in your opinion, if someone's interested in joining the mortgage industry, do you think it's a good time to join?
Yes and no. Let me preface it. It's a industry. When I started in the industry, it was a little different because most of the people used to go out and hit real estate offices. As I tell people, 25 years ago, if I went in Bayonne at 8 o'clock at night, offices were still jam-packed. With technology, there's times you go in offices and there's nobody there. So it's harder to train sometimes newer people because of the technology and to get a feel what it's like to get out there and to attract business. But I always say, anytime you have a crisis, like when the financial crisis of 2009, if you get in the industry at that time, and if you make it and you stick it out through that time, then when things get much better, you'll do very well. So is it a disadvantage to get in any industry at a time of like this when, it's in disarray? And absolutely. But if you can navigate yourself through, these type of rocky waters, then when the waters calm down, it's much smoother sailing.
Got it. No, I agree 100%. And I think the same applies to real estate.
Exactly.
If you can sell real estate in a down market or in a bad market, when everything picks up, you'll strive. You'll be successful because you already know how to operate when things aren't exactly the way,
110%, George.
right, that
Absolutely.
I agree 100%, Sam. So, Sammy, why don't you explain a little bit what's your mission statement, like, with your company? Like, what's your why? Why do you exist? Why do you operate as a mortgage industry and a mortgage business? Like, what's your reason for being and servicing people?
I'm going to give you the company mission statement in a minute.
Okay.
Again, for me, George, it is a little different. I like to consider myself, my family life, but I'm like the custom tailor. I think every mortgage is different. There are people who could go into a department store and buy a suit off the rack, but not everybody can. What might be good for George might not be good for Sam, or might not be good for Joe, or whatever. So I've always felt it was my job to, put that person or that couple into a program that tailor fit them, to what's best for their situation. And I've been doing that for 25 years. That's why for me, being, it was always important to be in front of people, and that works for me. There are other highly successful mortgage originators who don't leave their house, and they are far more successful than I am. So what they do works for them. For me, it's a people business, and I need to sit in front of people and be able to make sure that I always tell people, the loan I put them in, or the program I put them in, that's the same loan I would put myself or my brother in. So I try to take care of them as they were family. Our company mission statement, if I could give you that, it's important. Let me see if I could pull this up. And don't tell my CEO that I don't know it off the top of my head. At Mortgage Unlimited, we exist to pioneer a new vision in our industry based on love, education, and prosperity through sustainable lending. So we are, in fact, this was the second year in a row we were voted one of the top mortgage companies in the country to work for. We are big enough to handle any type of loan, but small enough that we are a family-based company. So we treat it like that. We hope we treat the employees like that. The people who come from mortgage and Mortgage Unlimited, we like to look at them as family and treat them as such. So you know what? And especially now in this type of pandemic crisis, I'm doing some refis. I would say 25 to 30% of all my business are referrals from past clients that I've done throughout my 25 years. And I try to keep in touch with them and see how they're doing, because most of my clients, they're not just clients to me. At the end of the application, they become friends.
That's awesome. So it seems like for Sam Ventola, you tailor fit your services to meet each of your clients' individual needs, and you make the experience more personable, where someone can contact you if they have a question, and you're available and you're present, and the client can physically see you. Whereas, like you mentioned, if it's maybe a larger company or someone who does things more remotely, you don't have that personal relationship. You don't have that one-on-one connection that a client seeking for that could receive with you.
Absolutely. And George, you could attest to this. And I think most people who've worked with me, I pride myself on service. Rates are great, but everybody pretty much now, everybody's pretty competitive when it comes to the rates. Our rates are kind of all similar. So, what differentiates us? It's service. I pride myself that people could get me 24/7. They get me on the phone at any time. If I don't pick it up, I'll call them right back. That's important to me, that, that I service people at the end of the day. When they're done with, the mortgage, they can say, hey, listen, he really was there for any questions that, I had, or any problems. Sam helped me walk me through it. And I take it also for the realtors like yourself who refer me. I don't ever want them to come back and say, Mr. and Mrs. Joe Smith didn't have a good experience with you. I'm a reflection on you. So you know what? I have to not only be good for me, but I have to do a great job, because I want them to say, hey, George, you know what? Thank you. You referred me Sam. He did a great job.
Right.
That's important.
No, of course. I am 100% agree with you. And I can attest to that as well, Sam. I think you're one of the few people in a high level branch manager that I have a question, or if I have a request, or a client needs this information, or a client has a complaint, I can talk to you directly, Sam. And if you don't answer, I'm sure you're busy, but you get to me right away. And that's super important. And that's crucial, I think, especially for a client looking to purchase a property. Um, Even now, even though we're in the whole coronavirus pandemic, I do see that the real estate market is still hot. And
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, some properties, there's still bidding wars on the properties
Yes,
if it's priced right. So it's super important that when we make an offer for a client, that we're on the same page, that we're communicated. If I need a pre-approval, Sam, I need a pre-approval in 5 minutes. There's a bidding war. The deadline is tomorrow. We need to get this done ASAP. And I think that's super important to have that resource on your side where you can feel relieved knowing that if I need something, Sam's there or my lender's there. And that's invaluable. And I know for a fact that the client uh, appreciates that and they can see those efforts.
I appreciate it also. Thank you. And yes, I hope so too. And George, for 25 years, that's the only way I know how to do business.
Right.
And I know guys in the business that at certain times they shut their phone off and it works for them. God bless them. For me, I just, I have people, not too long ago, someone called me. It was like 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And I called them back. They said, "What are you doing? Call me back." I said, "Well, you called me." "Well, I didn't think you'd call back." "Well, why'd you call me then?" If I hear the phone ring and, I'm going to answer it, I'm going to call you back because I'm going to assume that it's important.
Right. No, that's awesome. And again, I can attest to that, Sam. You're always available. So
I
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
And Sam, if someone's interested in joining the mortgage industry, what would be one piece of advice, or what would be your advice for someone who's interested in joining the mortgage industry? Is it a profession where you need to know people before you join? You need to be a people's person? Like, what's one way that a new mortgage originator or lender can get their feet in the water and start if they're interested, if they're really passionate and interested in joining the mortgage industry?
George, I think the mortgage industry and the real estate industry kind of run parallel with each other. I mean, does it help if you're a people person? Absolutely. I think the biggest thing I would tell people is you have to have thick skin. You have to be not deterred when people, say no to you. As I tell newer people, they go into real estate offices and they'll go in there for a couple of weeks and they'll say, they won't even look at me. I said, "Well, what makes you think that George Lorena, who's been doing business for X amount of years and has people working with him, that he's going to stop all and say, 'Oh, wow, you came in, I'll give you business'?" It doesn't work like that. You have to continually show put the effort in and be dedicated and be committed. And if you have that, and if you're willing, it's like, George, it's like working out. You know what? If you're committed to a healthy diet and working out and exercising at the end of a year, you'll be in good shape. Well, it's the same thing in the mortgage business. If you don't take no for an answer and continually knock on doors and and constantly are out there and at, somebody's service, and realize it may be, 6 months, 9 months before I start getting business, then you'll do well and you will do business. And if you're a people person, you'll even do, very well. Now, that's not the norm for everyone. I've had people in this business who the first 2-3 weeks, they had the ability, they got loans like that. And I've had other people who, one gentleman I always in particular is a good friend of mine. He worked for me for over 20 something years. His first year in the business did not get one deal, not one deal. And now today he does more volume than I do. He's a tremendous amount of volume. So it's just, you have to be dedicated and be committed and not give up too easy.
That's great. And I think you mentioned something important. It's having thick skin. So I think there's a mental toughness to that.
That's exactly right, George.
And like you mentioned, not taking no for an answer, or maybe not taking no so personal. Because like you said, some people will do business with you, some won't. Some people just don't like you for whatever reason. You can't explain it, and you can't take that personal. You have to knock on the next door, or like we would use in your case, knock on the next office or knock on the next client.
And that's
So
one of the hardest things, George, to not take it personal. And as a realtor, you could have a client that you spent months with and showed them 50 houses. And then you find out one Sunday they went out and looked at a house with somebody else and bought it with somebody else. It's like you got kicked in the stomach. Same thing as a mortgage rep. You could do, 15 pre-approvers for somebody and be there at their beck and call. And then for whatever reason, you know what? Their cousin told them, oh, call this guy. And they went to get a mortgage there. It still hurts, but you have to be able to bounce back. And like you said, not take it personal and just roll with the punches.
I agree 100%, Sam. So let's say someone watching this video now wants to connect with you, maybe join your team, maybe join the mortgage industry, and they want to be, held under your wings or be guided.
Please, I need people.
Or if it's a client that wants to buy a house, but they're scared, they're not too sure what to do. They don't know how much down payment they need, their credit score. How can they connect with you?
Absolutely. I tell everyone the easiest way is to call me on my cell phone, text me, or call me. I always answer 908-337-5935. Again, that's 908-337-5935. You could email me at sventola, SVENTOLA @mortgageunlimited.com. And, get me anytime you want. I'm always looking for hungry, young, aggressive salespeople to get into the mortgage business. And I'm always available, especially, I like to think of myself as, one of those people who are more designed for first-time home buyers. I'm a frustrated teacher. So part of dealing with first-time home buyers is educating. In that aspect, I really enjoy. I really enjoy to, educate people and let them know how the process, how it begins and how it goes from the start to finish and what they should expect through it. So call me anytime. If any, all the people watching, 908-337-5935, and I'll be glad to help you. And I'll be glad to talk to you about getting a job because I need some good people with me also.
That's awesome, Sam. No, I think anyone viewing can really appreciate everything that you've shared. I think it's so important that we educate, like you mentioned, the public and our clients and anyone interested in buying a house, because there is pandemonium, there is scare, there is uncertainty, and maybe misinformation that you see on TV or on social media. And it's great to have whatever questions someone has answered by a professional. And I think educating people, educating clients is the most important part that you can do. If you are interested in buying a house and you have uncertainties, getting those answers, getting those questions answered brings you relief, brings you security, and it brings you one step closer to becoming a homeowner if that's a goal that you have in mind. So I do believe, and I appreciate your time, Sam, and I'm sure everyone watching can take everything that you had into consideration and use it and apply it.
I hope so, George. I really appreciate this. This is a nice breakup of the day, especially as, like I said, as my routine has changed and being as I always say, a frustrated teacher, to have this kind of venue with you, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, Sam. So I'm looking forward to our next conversation, and anyone again who's interested in reaching out to Sam, I'll put the information below, and he'll be in contact with you right away.
Thank you so much. And everyone be safe out there, please.